Welcome friends to my review of the Fanless Silent mini PC. That's an 8-core 16-thread Ryzen 7 7730U. Here's the backstory to this unit. I probably got this maybe 5-6 months ago, and I got to use it for about a month. I already have an operating system installed on it. It ran pretty well. So starting with the end of the review first is that for my daily computing needs, I needed a little more power, and that's why I replaced it. However, for Homelabbing, this might be an ideal situation. So here's the unit on AliExpress. That's where I ordered it without with no hard drive, with no Wi-Fi, no nothing. These little circles over here, that's just leads to a Wi-Fi antenna that you could buy separately. They just leave that on there, but there's no Wi-Fi in this unit. So also watch out for these coupons right now. For example, this guy over here might be really good. Maybe the $40 off $269 or something like that, or $25 off $169, and upcoming price is going to be $212, and then you get the $25 off. However, you do have to pay a sales tax, so that might cover it. Looking on Amazon, similar units are lowest price without any things on it. It's the same one that I ordered. Perhaps this one might be with no Wi-Fi. I don't know why there's a Wi-Fi antenna here. I don't know what that means. However, $334, so maybe $100 less on Ali. So let's move on to the processor. So the processor in this bad boy is the 7730U. So 8-core 16-thread, as I mentioned, and it's a Zen 3. That's nice. Up to 4.5 gigahertz, 7 nanometers. Default TDP is 15 watts. Starting with the end first, I've seen it used when I was at 50% usage across the board on the unit, doing the Monero app. I think I was getting around 29-30 watts, and I think it had 22.5 2250 mega hashes. It's from Q1 2023. 2 Gen 2 10 gigabits. This might not mean anything. However, we know that it's DDR4, so it's not even DDR5, which is fine. A lot of units are still using that. It's using Vega graphics with 8 cores. OpenGL, OpenCL. DisplayPort, wireless display, Mirrorcast, product ID. Okay, so now let's quickly look at the outside of this unit. This is the back of the unit. It uses a 19-volt power brick on the back, a barrel plug, 19 volts. It has 2 HDMI ports, 2 LAN 1 gigabit ports. This is probably USB 3.1. Unless stated otherwise, it's probably 3.1 Gen 1, so it's probably 5 gigabits a second, I would assume. Because if it was 3.1 Gen 2 or 3.2 Gen 2, which is the same thing, it would have been red, like I've seen on motherboards. Perhaps I could be wrong. And those are a couple USB 2.0 ports for like your keyboard and stuff, which is good. And on the front, we have a USB 3.1 and audio. I believe this might be a combo port. I can't really tell you. That black tape over here is to cover up the light. So why did I originally buy this? Well, I wanted a PC that I could have next to my bed that I could leave Homelab tasks on and leave on and not hear any fans. That's one of those things I appreciate not hearing as much as possible, is extra fans. How I accomplished it, for example, with this PC, that's the only thing making noise. That's an air filter thing. This is a fanless CPU cooler, the Noctua NHP1. And this unit was actually over here for this computer over here. So I wouldn't have to, so having replaced it with this, I kind of have a better setup now, because that's the NHP1, the Ryzen 7 3700X with an RTX 4070 Super graphics card. Well, also the reason I needed that here is because I wanted to process videos much better. So that's why I replaced it with this unit. Continuing with this one, it's nice and heavy. This is a nice big chunk of aluminum. This does not have a single fan in it. The memory and upgradability is accessible through the bottom. What looks like here, we might have a VESA mount or VESA mounting points, perhaps to screw on. Don't hold me to that. And now let's actually get inside the unit and see what it looks like on the inside. So let's open this up. Screw number one. That's what I kind of like about this unit, is that it has just 4 screws. And they didn't put the screws underneath any feet, so you don't have to peel back any of these rubber things, which is cool. And I do like that there is already these silicone or rubber feet on the bottom. Did I have any issues with it? Yes, in the beginning. Another drive one of the drives I tried using, which was the Gigabyte 2 terabyte unit, it didn't work with it for some reason. I think this might be Gen 4, however, it might be Gen 3 also. So a 2 terabyte Gigabyte Gen 4 NVMe didn't work with it. And so I guess I replaced it with this one. This is a terabyte, I believe. Oh, this is a Gen 4x4. Okay. So what we're going to need to do is actually run a test on how well it handles the transfers on this drive. So this unit has just a single PCIe port. It has a secondary port over here. See over here for the wires? That's an AE key. That's used for Wi-Fi. However, I believe there is a converter, and you could use this as by one. So instead of whatever 2, 3, 4, 5 gigabytes a second, you might be able to run like a gigabyte a second using this output instead of a Wi-Fi card in case you needed it. And of course, we have our trusty SATA. That's kind of convenient to having both. So bulk storage on high capacity SSD. 4 terabyte drives, I think, are maybe like $200 nowadays. And what did And what did I install here? I believe 2 16 gigabyte sticks, 32 gigabytes of memory in total. That's what the board looks like. I'm not gonna take it off this part because you know, it would be too complicated to put it back. When something is not broken, don't try to refix it or unfix it. That's what I believe. So that's what it looks like on the inside. So once I use this, it installed fine. And yeah, it supports the 32 gigs, DDR4 3200 memory. You see the thickness of you see that those fins, and those fins kind of start where that ends. So that's a really, really thick fin assembly. Most of the weight of this unit is actually in this aluminum cover that is to dissipate the heat, because we are running fanless. So now, friends, let's talk about what this could be used for. Perhaps a media PC. However, I would actually disagree with that, because when I was running a 4K monitor, an LG Fine Art, or one of these LG, like a nice 4K monitor, plugged it into the HDMI port, when I was playing back videos, I wasn't getting such pretty like playback. You know, it wasn't 4K, it wasn't 4K 60. However, I wasn't getting that pretty of a playback. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna try with this 1080p monitor, with the touchscreen monitor over there, to see maybe that works better. So we wouldn't connect this to a TV. However, if you're doing home labbing, remote connecting, you want something, let's say, that sips power, that has low idle consumption, that you might want to remote in through several, different methods, such as Rio VNC, TeamViewer, Windows Remote Desktop. There's several Linux. Well, there's a lot of different options you could do. There's also Windows WAMP, Windows, file server. So you could run a small home website server. There's a way to actually just host your own website directly through your internet connection. To play around with things. However, for media consumption, I probably wouldn't use it. Maybe it's the HDMI port that I was using. Maybe that was the issue, because I was obviously just using only one of them. Heat-wise, I could hold my hand, but it would be kind of uncomfortable on top when it was running at 50%, running the Monero app. Because that's one of those things you could run in the background. It uses half your threads and leaves the other half, and you barely notice it running. And it's kind of cool to play around with. So what else? What else could it be used for? I just think for home labbing, we're looking for a service that don't make a lot of noise. If you're sensitive to electronic equipment, to put it in your bedroom, to have, let's say, a touch screen like that monitor, that's a Dell touchscreen monitor. Have a audiobook playback, where highest graphics fidelity isn't as important as in other places. That's why I have the RTX graphics there, because I realized I wanted that, and that's why I have the 1440p Asus Predator monitor, which I like the IPS colors of. So what are we going to do next? Well, perhaps what we want to do is do a test on Crystal Diskmark. Perhaps another thing that we could do is do Furmark, and then see how hot this guy gets after, let's say, 10 minutes. So let's get to those steps. So it's kind of impossible to tell if this thing is on unless you look at a power meter. It's actually off right now. So 102. So we're on outlet 1. Okay. Now let's turn it on. So as it was booting, it reached a high of 47 watts. And now it's loading up. Dropping down to 10 watts. Let's get some different benchmarks going.
Screwed, you know, because people in this position. Really,
so during this is video playback here.
Your Social Security income.
It is playing HD back 1440p. Let's see, 2160. So it can display it.
Social Security was always meant to just kind of be a supplemental form of income. You know, not going to be your main source of income.
And it's using 29 watts, 30 watts to power it.
Later on your 401k, so you have different legs.
What's nice is that it's completely quiet.
It was never meant to be, you know.
Perhaps maybe this is an ideal PC for running with
You're supposed to be able to live on that. But despite that,
a monitor like this.
According to the U.S. Census Bureau, 49% of adults between the age of 55 and 66.
See, the video playback might not be that perfect. Let's see, 1080p 60. Maybe that's them splicing the video so much.
So is it going to be possible to live comfortably on $23,000 a year? Probably not. I don't care where you live in the cheapest part of the country.
It's actually pretty decent. Oh. Oh, that's where these frames. So it's doing 20 frames a second. I put the settings to ultra. Maybe that's not the correct thing to do for this Vega graphics. However, even at these 20 frames, it's actually doing pretty decent. So that's what we got running this benchmark. Perhaps maybe I could set it in the BIOS for it to be more than 2 gigabytes. Perhaps that's worth a try to, and then retest. Maybe we'll get higher frame rates because 2 gigs of VRAM is a little bit too little. So here's the BIOS. Let's see if we could change around some things. American Megatrends, OEM GPIO, maybe that's that. Panel resolution. Oh, maybe that was the issue. Let's do this. High, 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 and high. Maybe that's a setting that I should have looked into before. Let's see what else. CPU configuration, FCS, SVM mode. Yes, we want the SVMs. IDE configuration. AMD PBS. SSD by 4. WWWin. We don't need WWWin because we don't have that on. Then Wi-Fi power enable. Disable this. USB camera enable. So this must be features that I'm not aware of. NVIDIA DGPU, I don't have that. SSD by 4. Okay. Boot. Advanced. CPU configuration, maybe that's in there. Node 0. Okay. I don't know what that means. Let's do P-State 2. Let's see this. I'm looking at this for the first time with you guys, so I'm trying to figure it out. Maybe you'll see some things that I haven't noticed here. Optional ROM dispatch. Restore failure, primary video ignore. I don't know what that means. Mass storage controller. IDE. There's no IDEs on here. Network stack configuration. What's in the network stack? I don't know what that is. Hopefully this will still work. Discrete GPU. So I don't see anywhere where you could switch it to okay. Driver health. No controller found, okay. AMT PBS. Firmware version. DT slot power. I don't know what that means. USB configuration. So I don't see any place where you could actually switch it up to a higher gigs of RAM. So at least this gave us a chance to check what's inside the BIOS. Save changes and exit, reset. Okay, so we got to check out the BIOS. So this is the system on boot, and I don't have any programs running, obviously, and you still have video output, which is really awesome, and it's sipping power between 10 and 14 watts. So quickly restarting the PC, and let's see after all these Windows updates how much what's the heat temperature on it. 124. So about 125 degrees at the top. It's currently installing updates. 127. 54 watts right now pulling. 39. Okay. Let's do that test. What kind of reads and writes are we gonna get? It is a Gen 4 NVMe, so 3,000 megabytes reading. And let's come back when it's done. So while doing this SSD test, that's how much power it's pulling. Actually, not that much. Now let's get down to what is going to be in the writing one. So that's the Crystal Disk Mark test. What this leads me to believe, either the drive might be of, because it came from an OEM PC, it sounds like it might have been, actually slower, or this is actually Gen 3 speeds that this drive is actually being read and written to at. So expect it to be PCI 3, maybe these speeds. So this way you know what you're getting into. So here's the hardware info page. So GPU is 400 megahertz. It's using a by 4 interface, and it's using 2 gigs. Okay, so that's the motherboard that we're using. DDR4 RAM, dual channel, 816 minimum clocks. Okay. Is there anything else that we can actually read from here? Motherboard, memory, video, Vega integrated. Okay. Sensors. Okay, so let's see what we have here. Let's look at the CPU. 59 degrees. Thermal limit, we're talking about 60% of it. Thermal limit. Huh. CPU package power is 7 watts, and it's currently consuming around 17. So maybe 10 watts is for USB ports and all that stuff. Okay. Drive. Samsung's. GPU. Okay. So let's see what else can we do. Summary, memory, about. So that's what we find out from the hardware info. Now let's do Cinebench. That's the extract speed of the Cinebench. It sounds like it is a lot of files, 23,000 files, so it'll pick up. That looks like the highest power draw that I'm seeing while doing the extract of the Cinebench. So here's a firmware score of 868. 59 Celsius, drawing 48 watts. So we're at 129 degrees. You should put your hand on the top. You won't get hurt. However, you will have to move eventually your hand away. So don't put this next to small children. Best conclusion to that. And let's get to the conclusions of this video. All right, friends. So let's come up with the conclusions of this video, because you know, it could go on forever and ever. It's fanless, it's silent. That's nice because you could leave this on overnight. You don't have this fan whining. What could this be useful for? It could be useful for as a network NAS that uses all SSD drives. So for example, a NAS that takes advantage of the USB ports in the back and has several USB ports on the back that it has in there, or it takes the SATA SSD and uses that as a NAS, attach it over a network. You could use one of the USB ports to upgrade to 2.5 or 5 gigabit Ethernet. I think the graphics are lackluster. However, to expect a server PC to have highest gaming graphics, it's a little bit ridiculous. I think the price is more or less reasonable for what you do get. Being fanless, that quiet factor is a really important factor, at least for me. You know, I have all quiet PCs. I showed you my desktops where I don't even use, I use a giant tower cooler that Noctua released, an HP one. However, those PCs draw a lot more power. At idle, what I measured on that one of the PCs that I had over there, about 80 to 100 watts, so about 3 times more than this. This one at idle actually uses a lot less. We saw as low as 10 to 15. Let's say maybe average 30 when you're running something, let's say, like Monero mining. So what this could be used for is maybe Monero mining, mini server, a Linux server, Homelab equipment, connect smart home to it. Where could it have been improved? Well, it could have probably had more high-speed ports. You know, I would have liked to have maybe USB-C port on here, or maybe a USB 4 port, USB 4 power delivery. If the Ethernet ports were 2.5 gigabit, that would have been nice. However, there's not that many options for fanless mini PCs. I believe they're all made by this one company in China called Topton. So I would say out of the AMD versions of fanless mini PCs, this is probably top of the line that they do have. The amazing thing about this PC is that it does have that high core count and high thread count. The 8 core 16 thread, that's nice. This you know, aluminum chassis is also, you know, obviously not free to manufacture, so that's kind of nice. So it's one of those things. So the additional benefit is that you don't have any fans that could actually go break down. You don't have any fans sucking dust into the PC. However, without those fans, you do have hot stuff inside the computer running. For example, the NVMe SSD. So the chassis itself has to be a giant heat sink. So I believe overall the long-term viability of this PC is actually might be better than a lot of PCs with moving components. So that's where the world is moving to, less and less moving components, and especially fans. I like peace and quiet, at least as much as I can have. If I need a window fan for fresh air, yeah, I'll turn that on. However, I don't have to have that on all night. However, the PC, let's say you're rendering something, or you want your server running, if you want an audio library, your music library, maybe connect this, maybe a full HD TV, but not a 4K. So what we might also want to consider is the options. I've already been looking at a different mini PC because this is a topic that I'm interested in. If you're interested in the topic too, thumb up the video and subscribe, of course. And comment below what you're thinking about. So the alternative that I've seen from that seems promising from the Intel side, you know, I'm more of an AMD, I guess, fanboy in regards to their PCs being usually running cooler and quieter just off the bat because they have less TDPs and they use less power just to start with. However, Intel does have some advantages that I think this one doesn't have. So this is the PC that I'm looking at. So we're looking at no RAM, no storage at $390 and on AliExpress. And a similar PC might be available on Amazon. I'll provide a link to the Amazon and to this one. I've seen a 1255U. That's probably close to this one. That's the highest top of the line one that they have over here. Oh, 1360, 1355. Oh, 407. Okay. 1355U. And what's nice about this PC is that it has a Thunderbolt 4 port in the front. Look at the amount of USB 3.1, maybe Gen 1, Gen 2 boards on the front. 2.5 gig LAN, that's nice, right out of the box. So 2.5 times faster Ethernet. And look, it has all these HDMI ports over here in this one. This one just has 2 HDMI ports, which is nice too. However, I think this one might have a better viability regarding to being a server, let's say like for Jellyfin and transcoding, because it does have Intel Iris integrated graphics. So we're talking about their higher end i7 here. So 8 cores, 10 threads. Let's see, specifications, description. That's retarded. So, long story short, I showed you the 1355U. That's the competitor to this one. Are you looking for a fanless mini PC? Are you trying to install something like that in your Homelab? Are you tired of fanless, of a fan running all night? At one point, before I had the fanless PCs, I used to run a stretch of cable outside my bedroom so that I could have my computer on overnight. And yeah, it's a little bit impractical. So I believe, you know, my desktops are really, really good for that. However, for server applications, if you need to serve up files, this is probably the biggest horsepower that you could get. I wish it had a little bit more features. However, where do the features start, or where do they end? You know, ideally, it would have been cool if they would have already had the 4 nanometer process instead of the 7 nanometer node. Yes, it's Zen 3. However, we're talking about, you know, 7 nanometers instead of the like most highest, latest 4 nanometer generation. However, even those PCs, they do have fans on them. Like for example, I have the UM790 Pro that has the 7940 HS. It could do a little bit more Monero hashing at like 2900 mega hashes. and this one can do probably 22.5 or 2500 mega hashes. So that's kind of nice, and with the low power draw, that makes that, you know, a lot more valuable. Especially, another possibility could be done is in a solar installation. Let's say a solar powered crypto mining. That's a possibility. I'm just thinking of different possibilities that such a PC could be used. You know, of course, I'm going to keep this. You know, it's one of my PCs. You know, these little toys lying around, eventually they do find a use. I'm planning to learn a little bit about Linux, about Docker containers, and maybe running a server services off it. You know, playing around with it. And it's nice that I could just leave it on and not worry about the power draw. You see the average power draw, it's still having the firm mark in the background. I wouldn't have to be worried about the average power draw because it's like 35 watts. We're talking about less than 700 watts a day, 800 watts a day. That's not that much. I am paying about 37 cents a kilowatt hour. So to run this is like 35 cents a day. That's kind of nice. As opposed to a full PC would have been $1 a day. But most of the time, are you really needing that, you know, huge high power of a full desktop PC? Probably not. Probably not at all. So would I recommend this PC? Well, I do recommend things that I did buy myself. I'm not sponsored. I bought this myself as an enthusiast, and probably, you know, making this as a long-term review, I hope you could appreciate that. So that's why I do appreciate the thumbs up and helping the channel grow so that I could bring more content like this. So what are your thoughts? Let's have a conversation below. Did you find something better? What are you interested in? What kind of home labbing stuff are you doing? Do you have any other questions? Now, I did the best I could with this computer. So I'll see you in the next one, friends. And have a great day. Bye-bye.